Welcome to Tea Time in Olympia. I'm Lucas Miller, and my guest today is Lonness Valenna, local activist. Lonness, thank you for being with us on the show today.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Even though it's a long drive, but
yeah,
always worth it to come see some friends.
So now your activism is currently based in Tacoma and Seattle?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your identity. You kind of go by the title of fairy godmother, I understand.
I do.
So tell us how that came about.
Name is Lonness Valenna. I go by female or fairy pronouns. It's kind of a play on words because when you look at the Irish form of fairy, it's called the she. So when you give me she and her pronouns, you're also giving me fairy pronouns. So it's just a play on words. It's great. I am a intersex individual. CH class intersex or chimeric hermaphroditic intersex. I was born with both genitalia, and as such, I've been through a lot of interesting experiences in my life, both dealing with all aspects of that, plus I'm also trans. I've been through 2 separate transitions throughout my time, one forced and one not. So I have an interesting view on transition as a whole, and I try to help people with their transition because I experienced both sides in some aspects.
So what do you think our viewers should know about intersex people? I understand some people feel that it's a separate class from transgender. Other people feel that they're connected. So what is your position on that?
Well, how I see it is intersex is separate from trans because intersex is basically just body mutations. It can be as small as just chromosomal or like androgen and sensitivity, or it can go all the way up to how I am with full-blown mutations, such as I have ovaries, testes, and a few other things. I was basically 2 fetuses that joined together in the womb, kind of fed off each other, and I kind of took over.
You would have been born as twins.
Yes.
Okay.
And normally, my class of intersex die in utero, but I was one of the, I guess, lucky few. And it's been. It's kind of emotionally draining to know that, you know, my sibling is with me at all times instead of, you know, deceased or passed on. So.
Well, plus I gather that, you know, in your early life, you know, society was not exactly enlightened when it came to, you know, how to deal with you.
I was labeled as an abomination by birth. I was born in Louisiana, and it's primarily Baptist country.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult. Luckily, I didn't stay there too long in my younger days. Mother was a cross-country truck driver, so she took me with her. And so we traveled the country until I was age 7, and I was raised as a girl until age 7, which was interesting. You know, I remember the little dresses and everything, and but I also loved playing with Legos and stuff. And she built in the little top of the scoop of the truck. She actually built like a little room for me, and that's where I stayed. Okay. It was interesting, and then I started getting like workbooks and everything. I started learning to track where the truck is, learn maps, math. I was reading stuff at a higher grade. I mean, when I hit levels, when I hit, not level 7, oh God. When I hit age 7, I was already reading Shakespeare and things. And when we stopped in Indiana, because that's where her boyfriend at the time was living, and I get into school, and it was really odd. What's this, 1, 2, 3, and nap? I'm writing in cursive and doing geometry and tracking. Is like, what is this? It's, I guess, because I wasn't raised with a TV or something. But unfortunately, with schooling, they said that, well, you can't be both like this. You can't have both parts. And they threatened my mother with jail if they didn't put me into a school because she couldn't homeschool me on the road.
Right.
So they forced me into a normalization surgery.
Wow.
Against my will, and because she didn't have the money to pay for anything of the sort, the state got to pay what happened. I got to choose what happened. And they chose the male side because it was cheaper. They gave me a hysterectomy, which botched horribly. The doctor never seen something like me, and it was really, really bad.
Wow.
It was
that
problematic.
must have had some...
And then afterwards, they forced male hormone shots into me and everything like that.
Ooh.
Forced to be a guy, got rid of all my girl stuff, and it's like, I just read these books and these fairy tales and just wish that like the Cinderella and everything, they always had this fairy godmother that'd come save, and I'm like, why won't one come? And eventually, Eventually, I was abandoned at age 12 because I tried to transition back to female, and it was troubling that my mother kind of would do something, and father left when I was born.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
It was.
So a pretty traumatic early life, sounds like.
I've been on my own ever since. I'm now 35. Once I hit 16, I started presenting female, and I've been doing it ever since. Because of my problems medically, I was told I'd be dead by the time I'm 20. And so going through that was kind of problematic because of my mutations. They said my body would go into failure. Because my heart is a tad bit different than most people, seen as two kind of merged. And so I really started just dedicating my life to trying to help others after that, since I figured I'd be dead. And I just kept doing it, kept being the fairy godmother for people like myself, which the only thing I could find was transgender people. It was so hard to find other intersex. Until the world of the internet finally came out. And I moved up to Seattle because it was the only place that had a doctor that understood intersex conditions, which was Linda Gronko, and she's been amazing at Queen Anne Medical. She actually took me in, even though she can't take my insurance.
Right.
And she really cares. She actually went to Thailand for a 3-week course on just dealing with human mutations and intersex people, just so she can help me. And I find that, what doctor goes out of their way just to help one patient? You don't see
one who obviously cares a lot.
Yeah, she sees the work I do within the community. So.
So you spent a fair amount of time homeless, living without
7 years,
shelter or support,
give or take.
And you have done a lot of work
cities.
since then, trying to help other trans people who are experiencing homelessness.
I have, not to mention the fact that we have a few trans houses that we helped start. First one was Amy's Outhouse, which is the kind of the famous one. And then we took that same model and branched it out to other houses. And the first trans people we let them name the houses. So we got some interesting names as well.
Now, I'm curious to know, are these houses more or less modeled on the star houses that Sylvia Rivera and Marsha Johnson started, or are they a completely...
Not at all. This is just something that we started because, honestly, if there's room in the home, there's room in the heart.
Okay.
In some aspects. We try to do what we can. It's just that there's such a demand for housing for homeless trans and intersex people that I can't get enough spaces, couches. I literally made a network of people that had any kind of free space, and whenever someone would come that would need a place, I would connect them with people. So I'm basically more like a spider in the center of a web of information.
I see,
And I'm always connecting people. And also, I do a lot of volunteer work at the local shelters in Seattle. and one of them we actually got changed from a full women's shelter to a women and trans shelter, and ever since then I helped them get funding and whatnot from the Pride Foundation, and with it they were able to bluster everything, get actual showers and everything. It's been such a wonderful turnaround just because they have acceptance compared to some of the other places.
Sure. Now the houses like Amy's Outhouse, and you started another one called the Candy House. Is that correct?
Yeah, because Candace was one of the first trans people there, and it reminded them of like being in a candy land, having a place, so they call it the Candy House. And then we have another one called the Witch House, because that's here in Olympia, and that was because all the trans people were pagans, so they just wanted to call it the Witch House.
Okay, all right. Now, how do those houses? Is it just a matter of someone who has a house just makes it available, or do you look for funding for that, or how does that?
Mostly,
how do you start a project like that?
Oh, it depends on the location. Amy's place was Amy actually owns it, and she just opened it up. But the other ones, we had to be a little bit tricky about some things. We actually went to the banks, looked at foreclosure list, and would call them and say, hey, I have a nonprofit. If you donate this foreclosed home that's not doing you anything to our nonprofit, you will get a what do you call that? A rebate from the U.S. government for the cost of what it is right now.
I see.
And then we're going to take it and we're going to turn it into a house. And then I get trans people in there, and we work on solutions and ways that we can upkeep the property tax to keep it going.
Okay.
Or in some aspects, if we can't find a foreclosed house, we'll literally just go to a place, rent it, and make sure that I can fill it with people who are either on disability or actually have a job, and kind of show them what communal living is, because a lot of trans people right now, they don't know what it's like to be part of a family or be with other people.
Right.
And so this is actually a good learning experience of building family.
Now, the populations, the people that live in the houses, is it mostly trans feminine folks, or?
It's a mixture. It actually depends on the house.
Okay.
The first two, the Witch House and the Candy House, it's mainly trans female identified, but we do have one trans man and one of them, and the other one has a genderqueer person inside. But then we also have one that's all genderqueer people, and they just wanted to do theirs alone, and we don't tell them how to run anything or anything like that. They're doing just fine. And then we also have a masculine house, but we've been having issues with them and what their perception is of masculinity.
Okay.
We have, like, I brought one there, and he was a quite dapper trans guy, but then he turns out he's around all these ones that think misogynist tendencies are what, and so we had to literally go in there and boot them out, and then get more people in, because it was a shame that they were. When you go into a place and a trans man tells you, to don't speak when a man's speaking, I'm like, excuse me.
Oh dear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just little things. I mean, we've also had trouble with some trans women as well.
Yeah.
And some aspects have come from really different backgrounds.
Well, I guess whenever you get a group of, relative strangers trying to live in one house together, all the usual issues are going to arise.
Oh, there's lots of little things that pop up here and there.
Oh, I should imagine just divvying up the housekeeping is a challenge.
That is one of the main problems we've been having lately is some parts of their disabilities state that they can't do housework. And it really gets on the nerves of the ones who can.
Right.
But, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about the positives.
Right. But so do you think that your experience with being homeless is what drew you in particular to that?
Very much so. I don't want anybody to go through the same stuff that I went through, especially being homeless at a young age.
Yeah.
And eventually I was thrown into laboratories and things once they figured out what I was.
Wow.
When you're property of the state, you know. And then that's why I traveled so many places. I lived in 8 different states and 3 countries, them bringing me to place to, oh, look at the strange intersex person that has all this stuff. We have to study. We have to poke and prod and get samples.
Yeah.
And I had no control over it.
No.
You're not considered a person until you're 16 in this
Yeah.
country. And as an intersex person,
even less so.
it's,
I should
you're
imagine.
basically seen as an experiment number.
Wow.
It took me a while to really
Yeah.
it took me a while to really understand what it's like to be free in some aspects.
Yeah.
What
yeah.
it's like to actually have an opinion.
Well, you seem to have taken that early experience and, you know, turned it into motivation to do some really, really positive work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. It is a fuel of a fire that burns bright.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, tell us a little more about how your activism career sort of grew.
Well, it first started when I came to GAS. I started going to it. GAS is the Gender Alliance of the South Sound. It's the main trans group I'm now vice president of.
And you'll find its website at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah. GAS was different than most trans groups I've been to in Seattle, and GAS is located in Tacoma, which seems to be T-Town, also known as Trans Town. There's a bunch of trans people that migrated to that place, so we're all there. And I still travel from Seattle to there every 2nd, 4th, 5th Friday. So.
Yeah.
But it is a support and social group in the fact that, yes, we sit in a circle and no one's above another person. Everybody's equal. And we talk about our issues and problems, including decisive ones. Because we'll talk about, we'll bring up a subject, let everybody vote to see if that's okay.
Right.
On things such as religion, detransitioning, homelessness. We'll talk about these issues, and not only that, but we try to help out even outside the group, such as, oh, this person came to us, they're homeless. Let's see if we can't get a couch for them with one of the members. Or we go out to eat at a eatery after each meeting, and if someone can't afford to, we take it out of our coffers and make sure that they're fed for the night.
Nice.
I mean, that's what we're here for. For me, family is not what you're given, it's what you make. And I find that we made GAS into a family for everyone.
So what other kinds of programs is GAS doing these days? I remember back...
we have a Name Aid program,
Good,
which we
good.
actually,
Okay.
we get donations from various organizations and private people. And that goes to paying for name changes for individuals, and we help out. They go get their name changed, you bring us back the receipt, we reimburse them. And especially if you're impoverished or whatnot, you can get discounts. In fact, in Tacoma, when you go there, we actually have a name change kiosk that's there.
Oh, wow.
And I used it, and I got my name changed. Everything done besides my Social Security card in 6 hours.
Really?
6 hours. I was there in traffic court. And then, oh, yeah.
That's great, yeah.
No, I don't have an accident or anything. I'm just here to change my name. And the judge is like, okay, this is your old name. This is what you want your new name with. Is this true? Yes. Okay, awesome. And sometimes when you get this good judge, her daughter's trans.
Oh,
so
nice.
she waivers the fee.
Nice. Yeah. Cool.
And so sometimes,
wow,
they can
really
just get
good.
in. Yeah, and we're trying to find out her name, but the courts can't give it to us.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's interesting that sometimes some of our trans people have lucked out on that. And currently, right now, if you try to change your name within Pierce County, it is $210. do you know of any trans person that can just put that down and have it?
I think
Especially
that's
when they
I think
just
that's
move
about
here.
what it is in Thurston County now too.
That's sad, and
Yeah,
it's went up. When I first got here 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
it was only about $70. So they're really, they're taking advantage of us in some aspects, and I find it's kind of wrong.
Yeah, yeah. When I did mine back in 2005, it was only $89 at the Thurston County Civil Court, and you had to show up for for a court
Mm-hmm.
date. But at least they didn't ask us to advertise in the local papers for 3 weeks prior, as some localities do.
Well, we started getting a
But-
lot of these funding and money, and it's like, well, what are we going to do with this?
Mm-hmm.
What's something that we can possibly help in the community? And we just had so many people that were having trouble affording their name change that
Yeah,
we started it,
yeah.
and after 4 years' time, we've done over 300 name changes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Now, how do you apply for name aid? Is it based on financial need, or is it a first come first serve, or is there a lottery? How do you?
Basically, you go to the website,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a nice column, which name aid. You click on it, and it'll give you all the information to send us a request. We go through the board. We see if we have the funds to do it. If we do, then we'll send you a thing saying, go ahead, go get your name change, bring us back the receipt. If you need help paying for it, we might be able to help you if our coffers are good. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't.
Mm-hmm. But normally you reimburse somebody after the fact?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
And we always reimburse with a check back.
Fantastic. So now, back in the old days, GAS used to do a lot of support groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I seem to recall that, there were support groups for trans people, but there were also, they were trying to get support groups together for parents and partners and allies of various kinds. Is that still happening? Or?
Actually, now that the Rainbow Center, which is the main place that we all meet, is now in cahoots, or right next to the Oasis Youth Center, which is a place for trans, intersex, LGBT youth, and it's just for them. And they have actually a program for trans children that has been meeting now, and that's been very successful. And whenever they're ready to graduate from that, they can come to our group.
Oh, good. Okay.
Everything's being taken care of, and everything is regulated so that it's a safe environment.
Good, good. Are there any plans to start up a group for partners of transitioning people?
That would be an interesting one. We do have a lot of people who have partnered up and met at the trans groups. I don't know about partnering up, but I know that during our Saturday morning tea that has been started over there, because we've been having some issues about people coming to our meetings because it's from 7 to 9, but all the shelters to check in is at 5 and 6. So a lot of the people who are homeless couldn't come to the meetings.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like, no, we have to do something for them. So we, in the Saturday morning, once a week, we do breakfast, and we have a meeting for them, and it's been highly successful since we started it about 6-7 months ago. And yeah, it's been amazing.
So where is GAS getting the majority of its funding these days? Is it Pride Foundation, or is it?
There's this wonderful person named Catherine Mayhem, and she used to write grants for government organizations, and now that she's been with us, she's been finding us all these wonderful grants to help us out, including
Fantastic.
funding for my Fairy Godmother program that's coming out soon.
Oh, tell us about that.
See, normally I've been taking money out of things privately that I do with medical stuff, and they pay me for experimentation and things.
Right.
And I've been using that to take trans people who are just starting out to get their first wardrobe, or to help them get on hormones or find a doctor, and or just one night on the town just so they can see what it's like to be their true selves for once. And I've been taking that just $50 out for each person.
Okay.
And it's been somewhat successful that Catherine Mayhem said that it'd be great if we actually made this into a program for gas.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she's in the process of getting a huge grant for me to do this. And I think it'd be great that now I could actually be the fairy godmother and don't have to worry about taking what little I have, because actually I live very poorly. I have about $200 to my name, and still my special intersex drugs have to be paid for with that, which are not cheap because I got to get them from Thailand. They don't make them here in America.
So it's different from like the usual kind of hormone therapy that.
When okay, I have researched a lot on hormones and how to regulate my body and what the normal chemical makeup is for both males and females.
Okay.
As for a female identified person, and since I know about that a lot, there's 4 things: estrogen, progesterone, estradiol, and testosterone, and various amounts. Now, estrogen you can get from estradiol valerate. That's a normal thing that all trans people take. Normally, they'll use spirolactone to offset all this to lower testosterone count so that this becomes dominant.
Right.
What I'm taking is it lowers my testosterone but doesn't get rid of it, and then converts it to estradiol. And then all I take is a progesterone like cream that I rub into here, and I have the 4 things for a normal female body. So that's why everything grows like, normal.
Okay. Okay.
And the special converter is an experimental thing that's being tested on me from a company in Thailand.
I see. Okay. All right. So.
And eventually it might actually help trans people because it will be made public. And it'll be a wonderful option because spirolactone unfortunately destroys a liver over time.
Yeah, I've heard that there are problems with that. Yeah. So tell us some more about, in general, the kinds of issues that intersex people face, perhaps as distinct from the kinds of issues that transgender people face. And
well, it's in the medical lingo and talk, actually, because our medical needs are a little bit different than trans people.
Right.
Because sometimes we have mutations, sometimes we have things where we need a specialty medical surgery because it's life-threatening.
Or a drug from Thailand.
Yeah, or a drug from
Thailand.
A good example is actually in Australia. If you look at Australia, transgender is not the umbrella term. They actually use the word intersex.
Really?
As a form for anybody that's going back and forth and everything. But because of that, for them to get medical things, it's very difficult because there's so many people trying to vie for claiming to be intersex to get stuff, and it makes it harder for us to get life-saving things because of our mutations. And while here in America, the umbrella term is transgender, and they add us in. And it's interesting that now we had to change what intersex means because now we learned about androgen insensitivity and certain minor chemical differences, as opposed to the full-blown hermaphroditic ones like we are.
Well, as I understand it, there's a number of different specific, medical, I hate to say conditions, but for lack of a better term, that fit under the
ailments.
Ailments
would be a better
or I don't know, states of being, maybe.
States of being.
I'm always looking for a less kind of laden term, but
it's kind of hard,
but there's a lot of specific, medical issues that come under kind of the umbrella label of intersex. Is that correct?
Actually, yes. And it's interesting, especially when you say, "Hello, new doctor. I'm an intersex individual," and they're like, "Oh, okay, you're just trans then." No.
Okay.
Yes, I may be going through a transition, but that is not, that's my spirit, that's my mind, that's not my body. My body was born different, and it's separate.
Right. Yeah, I imagine you have to do a lot of educating, especially when you have a new medical practitioner who
And with
maybe hasn't,
so many surgeries being thrown around left or right,
Sure.
it's hard really to distinguish.
Yeah, well, I imagine it can be confusing because a lot of people identify as both intersex and transgender.
Like how I do.
Yeah, yeah.
But some people that I've met will say, I identify as intersex. Like, okay, you're free to identify with whatever you want. What type of intersex are you? And they're like, well, I'm just, I say I'm intersex because it's the only thing that's valid.
Oh, okay.
Especially when you come from other countries. Kind of like the Z-Zir. You know how they have they, them here that we use for gender neutral a lot? But there's also Z-Zir, and that's around Italy. Around the Vatican and everything. If you say they, them to somebody, they think you have multiple personality disorder and they'll throw you in the loony bin.
Okay.
The white coats will come take you. So they had to put a new word that means for what they are. Okay. And the same thing kind of with intersex.
Yeah.
They kind of use that word as a safety net.
I see.
Because it's medically understood what that is, especially like in Arabic countries and things.
Okay.
They understand what intersex is, but they have no word for transgender.
Okay. All right. Now, you said that your particular kind of intersex is quite rare.
Yes, very rare.
Yeah.
In fact, there's only 9 known cases.
Wow. That's very rare.
Living cases, that is. There's about
20
28,
known in the medical
27
literature?
known, and right now that's why they're studying at the University of Washington, so they can put stuff in the medical books.
Yeah.
In fact, if you read Linda Gronko's book, Where's My Book? It's actually one of the best composites of trans and gender nonconforming information, including chapters on intersex. I even wrote a chapter on what to do if you're kicked out and homeless at a young age, because it happens so often.
Yeah.
At one time, when I was doing work with the homeless community, we had a 7-year-old trans girl just left in Cap Hill, which is the main gay area of the city, or was.
Wow. Yeah.
And said, oh, here, be with your kind, just because, and then drove off, just because she tried on her sister's dress.
Wow.
Luckily, now she's with a loving 2 trans women that adopted her, and she's just happy and smiling. She's now 12.
Yeah.
So.
It really is amazing what people who call themselves parents will do.
They're in jail now, so.
Yeah, well, good. But Gromko's book sounds like something I would like to recommend to the the folks in my support group for parents of trans and gender nonconforming kids.
And if you want, we can actually probably flash that, because I know where you can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's readily available.
Yeah. So again, look at the bottom of your screen. So there are, as I understand it, more common intersex conditions.
Yes.
Androgen insensitivity.
Yeah, or even ambiguous genitalia.
Yeah.
Where it's actually, it began with the basis of when they had the little measuring thing, and you know, this is female, this is male.
Right.
Everything in between was ambiguous.
Yeah.
And from that, you know, with the whole circumcision and things like that.
Well, and I mean the whole, scheme of deciding that was just so blatantly patriarchal. Yeah, and of course
it's barbaric.
As I understand it, one of the main issues of intersex activists has been the corrective surgeries that have been forced on
normalization surgeries is what we've been calling them.
Okay.
And yes, it is. It's sad that, you know, a lot of it happens at birth.
It sounds like just plain old mutilation to me, but
yeah, and for me, I was 7 years old when they did mine, and it was just, I felt like I was being led to death row at a young
Yeah,
age, you know,
yeah.
what was going through my head at the time, that I didn't have a
Yeah.
choice, and I was being thrown here, and every time I tried to get
Hmm.
away, someone would grab me and no,
That's a very young age. I mean, did you understand
yeah,
what they were about to do, or?
kind of.
Mm,
They would kidify everything, and
right. Yeah.
I was not a dumb child.
No, it doesn't sound like it. Mm.
And I've tried to seek out the doctor who did this, try to
Right.
sue and everything.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
actually in jail right now, so for actually trying to help someone with assisted suicide.
Huh.
So the whole double jeopardy law
Okay.
is in effect, and
Yeah.
I
yeah.
can't sue or anything.
Wow.
So there's nothing I can do about it. And I've been actually trying to fight to get on disability for the last 10 years.
Really?
I'm not currently on it. I'm on ABD, age blind disabled.
Okay.
And so they only pay me $197 a month, and I have to live off of that.
Wow.
I've been doing that for 10 years.
Yeah.
If it wasn't been for the community helping me out, and Amy, the first one who took me in, and we made Amy's outhouse, she lets me stay at her place, and I try to help out with everything. And I helped her actually come out, since she was a closeted crossdresser for over 40 years.
Hmm.
And now she's
Yeah.
just a full-time woman she always wished she could have been, and
Yeah.
she's so happy.
Yeah. So now the surgery they did on you, is that fairly? That's not a very typical
No.
surgery. I mean, as I understand it, it has mostly to do with the more usual procedures have to do with resizing the phallus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they usually take whatever the phallus is, put this little ruler, and like I said, if it's a little bit high, then it's a male. If it's this low, it's female. If anywhere in between, we're going to make it so it is nearer to the one. And usually they go towards
Yeah,
male because
yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
they claim it will be easier for the person.
Right. But most intersex activists characterize this as a human rights violation.
Very
Is
much
that-
so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a shame that it's not talked about often.
Yeah.
In fact, when you look at a lot of the rules and regulations, it's so binary, and something that's like something of us is not even in the rules. That's why it's taken me so long to get on disability, because
Yeah.
we don't exist in their eyes.
Yeah. I mean, as I understand it, the surgeries are not too dissimilar to the kinds of female circumcision that are performed in some other countries.
Oh,
You
the
know,
hysterectomies and things.
for cultural reasons, and that kind of, I mean, surgeries done for that reason are supposed to be illegal
They
in the
are.
United States,
Or at
but
least
people with,
They are illegal for certain states.
well, as I understand it, the exception is people with ambiguous genitalia, that then the surgery can be performed legally, even though
And the
it
worst
is every
part
bit
is,
as,
if
yeah.
one of these surgeries is done, doctors do not legally have to tell the parent. Once
Really?
the child gets is
Yeah,
born,
yeah.
and they take it to examine and do everything, they usually do it on the spot, and they write it down, and it gets put in a sealed thing.
It
for the
seems to me I
hospital.
did hear of a case of a mother suing a hospital for performing such a procedure on her newborn without informing her or asking her.
Yeah, that happens
I
a
don't know.
lot within the intersex community.
I
Sadly.
don't know what the
It's just
outcome of that
countless
case was, but
And a lot of them, the cases just end up sitting in courts until they just fizzle out, because it's just, they don't see it as an issue.
do you feel that intersex activism has made some progress in, that doctors are less likely to do that now?
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
I've seen that things have stayed stagnant. It is a little bit more coming out into the open, but honestly, a lot of intersex people just blend in with the trans and everything else that they,
Okay.
or the trans people, sorry, and it's just, we're kind of, it's a horrible erasure of
Yeah.
of a physical third gender in some aspects.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what they fear.
The existence of a third gender?
I have a friend, I can't say their name,
Mm-hmm.
they're also a hermaphrodite,
Okay.
and their significant other is also a hermaphrodite,
Okay.
and they had a kid who is also a hermaphrodite.
Hmm.
That means that we can actually produce more like us,
Ah.
and it just breaks the gender binary completely.
Yeah, yeah.
And because of that, I think that's what they fear. They
Mm-hmm.
fear the fact that the whole fabric of our power shift and our
Well, yeah.
our society would break if something like that happened.
Well, and it would.
And
You
the
know,
thing is,
and
we're
for the
slowly
better,
evolving
I
through
think.
that, actually,
Yeah,
in some
yeah,
aspects.
yeah.
Because we're having more cases of intersex and
Mm-hmm.
abnormalities happen more and more. They're actually been on the rise, or at least I
Okay.
think that we're now actually starting to see this more, just like the more rise of trans people, is the fact that we now have the internet age. We can
Yeah,
communicate, we
yeah,
can tell
yeah.
people our thing, and we're more open to talk about it now, unlike when we had to keep everything so far in the closet. And unfortunately, with our political environment right now, people are going back into the closet and they're locking that door,
Yeah.
and it's
yeah.
sad.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem that in the last 10 years, or at least, until last November, more and more people were coming out as trans, as
Mhm.
as non-binary, as there was
We're more open to share.
the gender spectrum was becoming more present in public thought. But you say there have been more. There's been a rise in the incidence of people of intersex people being born,
Actually,
or
yes.
or just coming out as such, or both.
Actually, it's kind of a mixture. The problem we're having is that we have a split within the intersex community. And
okay.
this is something that I don't like talking about because I hate talking about the negatives of things. But we have some intersex people that are very elitist that say, well, look, my body is different. I have medical proof. You trans people are just mentally deranged. And it's like, and then we have the other intersex people that accept everything, that
Right,
everything's
right.
not just a spectrum, it's a full matrix of gender, orientation,
Right. Well, now,
and everything in between.
so here's a possibly sort of hypothetical question, but so there's a lot of theories about why transgender people are transgender. One of them has to do with possible differences in brain structure that are sex specific, and that if for example, a person is born with, some theories say that it's seated in the hypothalamus, and that if you can be born with a hypothalamus that is either more male normative or more female normative, irregardless of what the rest of your body looks like. I mean, wouldn't that count as a physical condition that affects your gender identity? And if so, wouldn't that kind of blur the line between transgender and intersex? And what do you think about that?
Well, in some aspects, yes, chemical influx can actually change physical and even cell structure. I mean, what you put into your body can actually change it greatly.
Yeah.
I mean, look at our hormones.
Sure. Yeah.
But even in the case of intersex, I mean, with what we can do with genetic engineering, structures, organ, body part transplants, I think anybody can practically be intersex if something or another happens. And we have already proven that chromosome types, believe it or not, can even change over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially with someone like me, when they take from each different arm, one arm is male, one arm's female. for genetic
wow.
structure. But when you take the one from my chest cavity, it actually is a whole string of both of them combined.
Wow.
So, and even I have a few chromosomes that goes beyond the 32 range. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
also some
yeah.
interesting things that they are studying, but I can't really talk about because
Well, it sounds like we have a lot to learn.
that's one thing. We're
yeah.
always learning. We're always
Yeah.
changing. We're always evolving.
Yeah.
And it's for the better. That's what the beautiful thing about the humans or humanoid species is
Yeah,
the fact that we're constantly evolving and changing to better suit our environment as stewards of our little dirt rock.
Yeah. Well, so to conclude, is there any particular message you would like to leave our viewers with, or what do you see in the future for you as far as where do you see your activism going from here?
Well, I would like to talk on a more grander scale on intersex issues. I would like to talk to more important people and which actually say that, hey, we are here, we exist. The I is not just for intermediate, move to the next letter. No, we're actually here, and if I can give anything, it's I went looking for the meaning of life when I was younger.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out why I'm here. I studied different faiths, religions, I looked at all sorts of studies to try to figure out why do I exist, especially because where I was at, the faith-based communities basically said, well, God makes no mistakes, and he only makes man and woman. And I'm like, well, if God makes no mistakes, and he only makes man and woman, and I am here, what does my physical existence means for your faith?
Yeah.
And they just couldn't answer, except for I was put here by the great deceiver. So I couldn't really go by religion anymore.
No.
And so for me, my whole point of life was to make the world a better place than what it was for which I came in.
Yeah.
I try every day to try to help people, and when I do, I don't ask them for money. I don't ask them for anything except for pass that kindness on. And now, look, we have this beautiful family of people. Even my name. When I chose my name, Lonness Valenna, Valenna means to transform, and Lonness means elegant, so I'm an elegant transformation. And many trans people who have been disowned by their family have taken my last name, asked me, can I be part of this Valenna family, because this is great. So now I have this huge family of like 18 other trans people, and it's just great, and more keep getting added every time. I even got a few cis people that have joined. So that's what it is. It's just about building one big family and just looking out for each other.
Well, it sounds like you've definitely found some purpose, or purpose has found you. And
yeah, I do believe it's found me. I kind of tripped and stumbled over them.
You could hardly ask for a better, mission in life, I think. But so, Lonness Valenna, thank you so much for being with us on the show, and thank you for joining us on Tea Time in Olympia. Have a good evening.